Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to the Backroad Star. I hope everyone's week has been going well. I've been spending the past few weeks on the road with my son, touring colleges, putting miles on the car, collecting a few free t-shirts, and finding more than a few small town diners along the way. We've had a lot of fun. As a parent, it's a very strange season of life. One minute you're teaching them how to tie their shoes, and the next you're walking across a college campus trying to pretend you're not calculating how much longer they'll still call you when they need something. Road trips have always had a way of slowing life down for me. Today was our last college visit, and somewhere between the open highways, long conversations, and Oklahoma sunsets, I couldn't help but marvel at how quickly time passes. And after weeks of tours, brochures, websites, questions, more questions, and enough free college t-shirts to outfit a small village, I think he's finally made a decision. At least that's what he's told me today. I reserve the right to remain cautiously optimistic until paperwork is signed, though. I also need to give a shout out to my daughter. For years, she's asked me, "Mom, when is it finally going to hit you that we're all grown up and your mom duties are done?" Well, sweetheart, today. It was today. Today, your brother chose a college more than 3 hours from home. Today, we started talking about apartments. Today, we started talking about moving. And apparently his cat, Aries, is moving too. Nobody prepared me for the emotional impact of realizing that Aries has a relocation plan now. So yes, Lena, you were right. It would finally hit me. And I thought about you the whole time. Before we get started tonight, I want to take a moment to thank all the new subscribers. It has been wonderful to have you here. I have been awestruck and extremely humbled by the response the channel has gotten. Thank you, my friends. Please leave a comment and let me know where you're listening from, though. I'm a little curious. And just a reminder, if you found your way here, trust there's a reason. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And if these conversations find meaning to you, please consider liking, commenting, or subscribing. Tonight, I want to ask you a question. What if the heaviest weight you've ever carried wasn't on your body? What if it was the story attached to it? What if the criticism, the comparison, the shame, the waiting, the belief that you need to become someone else before you deserve to fully live? What if that was the heaviest thing you've been carrying all along? Tonight, I want to talk to you about body image. Not diets, not exercise, not weight loss, not before and after photos. I want to talk about the relationship we have with our bodies, the stories we inherit, the messages culture teaches us, and how these stories can quietly shape our confidence, our identity, our joy, and our willingness to fully participate in our own lives. This episode has been one of the hardest episodes I've written so far. Not because I didn't know what to say, because I knew exactly what to say. The challenge was deciding whether I was going to be brave enough to say it. I have spent years thinking about my weight, years thinking about diets, years thinking about my health, thinking about what I needed to change, believing that if I could just fix my body, everything else would finally fall into place. But I rarely talked about any of it. In fact, I avoided talking about it whenever I could, because talking about it meant acknowledging how much power it had over my life. The thoughts, the shame, the waiting, the quiet ways body image affected nearly every decision I made. Tonight, I want to talk about that. I believe all of us are born worthy. I believe all of us are born deserving of love, even if in the beginning, the only love we know is God's. Somewhere along the way, I think many of us forget that. I know I did. I don't remember exactly when it happened. I can't point to a single moment, a single conversation, a single event, but I can remember pieces. I remember being in kindergarten. I had brown curls and pigtails, big brown eyes, skin that tanned easily in the Oklahoma sun. I remember looking at my Barbies. The blonde-haired, blue-eyed, fair-complected dolls always seemed prettier. The brunette dolls were just less beautiful, less everything. Looking back, that realization breaks my heart because I was 5 years old. How does a 5-year-old already believe she should look different? Nobody sat me down and told me my brown eyes weren't beautiful. Nobody handed me a rule book, yet somehow I had already learned. The dolls, the television, the music videos, the magazines, the advertisements, the soap operas playing in the background, thousands of tiny messages teaching me what beauty looked like. And before I was old enough to question the messages, I had already started comparing myself to them. As I got older, the comparison grew. I watched my mother's relationship with her own body. Looking back, I don't think she intended to teach me anything about body image. I know I affected my daughter. I never meant for that either. I think we're all carrying our own struggles, our own wounds, our own insecurities, but we're just too ashamed to talk about them. But children are always watching. We learn from what we see. And long before I understood body image, I was learning lessons about it. As the years passed, I became increasingly aware of my body, increasingly aware of my appearance, increasingly aware of how I compared to everyone else. And eventually, I became convinced that my problem was my weight. I tried everything: calories, walking, Weight Watchers, prescription meds, over-the-counter meds, starting over, failing, starting over again. For years, I told myself the same story. When I get thin, then I'll do this. When I get thin, I'll wear that. When I get thin, I'll go on that vacation. When I get thin, I'll take the picture. When I get thin, I'll start dating. When I get thin, I'll finally be confident. When I get thin, then my life will begin. Decades went by, waiting. And that may be one of the hardest truths I have ever had to admit. I wasn't just trying to lose weight. I was postponing my life. There were years I stayed home almost all the time outside of work. I went to work. I came home. I raised the kiddos. I handled responsibilities. I paid bills and I survived. But I wasn't really participating in my own life outside of my 2 kids. I didn't want people to see me. I avoided photographs. I avoided events. I avoided attention. I didn't date for 19 years. 19 years. Looking back, I thought I was protecting myself from judgment. I made an excuse that I was doing it for the kids because I wanted them to have a stable life. I didn't want any outside drama affecting us. What I was actually doing was withholding my life from myself because of fear, of insecurity. I think one of the biggest misconceptions we have about body image is that we believe it only affects how we look. We think body image is about mirrors, photographs, clothing sizes, the number on the scale. Body image affects how we move through the world. It affects our confidence, our willingness to participate, our relationships, our decisions, our very identity. And sometimes it affects whether we believe we deserve to be seen at all. What fascinates me is that most of us never consciously chose these beliefs. They were handed to us slowly, quietly, over the years, through thousands of small messages so common we rarely question them. But think about it. How many advertisements have you seen this week? How many commercials? How many social media posts? Videos? Magazines? How many products promising to make you younger, thinner, healthier, more attractive, more desirable, more acceptable. The message is everywhere. Lose weight, get toned, get fit, get younger, fix your skin, fix your hair, fix your smile, fix your body, fix yourself. And after hearing those messages long enough, we stop questioning them. We begin believing them. We begin treating ourselves like projects instead of people. We begin seeing ourselves as problems to solve. The culture changes. The technology changes. The platforms might change. But the message remains surprisingly consistent. You are not enough. When I was growing up, it was magazines, television, movies, music videos, soap operas, celebrity culture. Today it's social media, filters, editing apps, influencers, perfectly curated photographs, perfectly curated vacations, perfectly curated lives, perfectly curated bodies. But underneath all of it, the message remains the same. You need improvement. You need fixing. You need changing. You need becoming. And eventually, many of us begin carrying this message inside of ourselves. We stop hearing it from the outside because it becomes a part of our inner voice. I think one of the greatest acts of rebellion in today's world is learning to separate your worth from your appearance. Not because appearance doesn't matter, not because health doesn't matter, not because taking care of ourselves doesn't matter. They do. They absolutely do. But your humanity matters more. Your character matters more. Your kindness matters more. Your integrity matters more. Your soul matters more. There is also something else we need to acknowledge, though. There are entire industries built around our insecurity. That isn't a conspiracy. It isn't evil. It's simply reality. Diet industries, beauty industries, cosmetic industries, fitness, fashion, weight loss industries. Every year, billions of dollars are spent convincing people that happiness is just one more purchase away, one more diet away, one more procedure, one more transformation away. Now, please hear me carefully. There is nothing wrong with wanting to improve your health. There is nothing wrong with wanting to feel stronger. And there is nothing wrong with wanting to lose weight. There is nothing wrong with wanting to take care of yourself. I've lost more than 150 pounds. I would never tell you health doesn't matter, because it does. The danger comes when we begin believing our worth arrives after we achieve those things. Because then the finish line never stops moving. You lose 20 pounds. Now you need to lose 30 more. You reach your goal. Now you need to tone up. You tone up. Now you need to look younger. You look younger. Now you need something else. And the cycle continues. Because insecurity is never satisfied. It always wants one more thing. One more improvement. One more achievement. One more reason why you are not enough today. I spent years believing that confidence lives somewhere in the future. Happiness lives somewhere in the future. Acceptance lives somewhere in my future. And if I could just become the future version of myself, then everything would finally be okay. But here's the problem. Life doesn't wait. The birthdays happened. The holidays happened. The photographs and the sunsets, the memories, the years came and they went, whether I participated or not. And I wonder how many people are listening tonight carrying the same belief I carried for decades. The belief that life will begin later. The belief that joy will begin later. The belief that confidence will begin later. The belief that worthiness will be there later. And hear me. If that is you, I want you to sit with a question for a moment. What have you been postponing because you believe you need to become someone else first? Please think about that. What experience, relationship, opportunity, or adventure What memory, what dream, what part of your life is waiting for permission from a future version of you? Because one of the hardest lessons I've learned is this: life is happening while we're waiting, and none of us get those years back. For years, I believe confidence came from appearance. I believe confidence was something you earned, something you unlocked, something waiting on the other side of my weight loss. But the older I got, the more I questioned it. When I look back to some of the most confident periods of my life, I don't remember standing in front of a mirror admiring myself. I remember participating. I remembered living. I remember showing up. And that has made me wonder something. Maybe confidence wasn't coming from appearance at all. Confidence was coming from my participation. Confidence was growing when we engage in life. Confidence when we trust ourselves. Confidence grows when we stop standing on the sidelines of our own life. Because here's something else. Body image doesn't just affect how you see yourself. It affects how much life you're willing to experience. It affects the vacation you don't take, the picture you don't stand in, the invitation you decline, relationships you don't pursue, the opportunity you never accepted, and that dream that you keep postponing. For years, I thought I was just protecting myself from embarrassment, rejection, judgment. But looking back, I can see something different. I wasn't protecting myself. I was limiting myself. And the truly heartbreaking part is that I didn't realize I was doing it. It happened slowly, one decision at a time, one excuse at a time, one postponed experience at a time. I told myself I would go when I lost the weight. I would wear it when I lost the weight. I would date when I lost the weight. I would travel. I would put myself out there. The problem is, tomorrow kept moving. The future kept moving. The goalpost kept moving. And life kept happening. I think one of the saddest consequences of body image is that it steals joy. Not because joy disappears, but because we stop allowing ourselves to feel it. We become so focused on fixing ourselves that we forget how to enjoy ourselves. We become so focused on changing ourselves that we forget how to appreciate ourselves. We're so focused on becoming that we forget how to just be. I know for me, body image affected my identity more than I ever realized. For a long time, I felt like all that I was Lane and Luke's mom. That was all that was left of me. And please understand, being their mom is one of the greatest joys of my life. And I would walk that path all over again for them. I wouldn't change it for anything. But somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing myself beyond that role. I stopped seeing the woman underneath the responsibilities, the woman underneath the expectations, the woman underneath the survival. There were dreams that got buried, parts of myself that got buried, pieces of my identity that quietly disappeared beneath years of believing I wasn't enough. Body image didn't create every wound in my life, but it certainly made those wounds louder. I've talked before about being hyper-independent, about being a people pleaser, about spending years taking care of everyone else, neglecting me. Those wounds existed long before my weight became a struggle, but body image amplified them. When I didn't feel worthy, it became easier to put everyone else first. When I didn't feel confident, it became easier to stay invisible. When I didn't feel valued, it became easier to convince myself my needs could wait. And over time, that becomes a dangerous way to live, because eventually you begin disappearing from your own story. You become the caretaker, the employee, the parent, the helper, the fixer, the responsible one, the strong one. And somewhere underneath all those roles, the person you truly are becomes harder and harder to find. I don't think we're meant to spend our lives apologizing for taking up space. I don't think we're meant to spend our lives earning the right to exist. I don't think we're meant to spend our lives waiting for permission to live. I think we're meant to participate fully, messy, imperfectly, just as we are. Because confidence isn't perfection. Confidence is participation. It's showing up. It's allowing yourself to be seen. It's deciding your worth is not up for public vote. And perhaps that's one of the greatest lessons body image has taught me. The goal was never to be perfect. The goal was learning how to stop withholding life from myself and not caring what others thought. Because life was never waiting for me to become someone else. Life was waiting on me to show up. One of the biggest shifts in my journey happened when I stopped asking, how do I lose weight? And I started asking, how do I care for my body? At first, those questions sound similar, but they come from a completely different place. One comes from criticism, the other from compassion. One comes from punishment, the other comes from care. For years, I approached my body like it was the problem. It's something to fix, something to shrink, something to control, something standing between me and my happiness. I don't think I realized how often I was fighting my body. Fighting hunger, fighting cravings, fighting appearance, fighting the mirror, fighting myself. And eventually, fighting becomes exhausting. Because no matter who wins, you still lose. In 2022, everything began to change. Not overnight, not magically, but gradually. After my surgeries were done, I was given an insulin resistance diet. High protein, low carb, no sugar. Folks, no sugar. And honestly, I was not prepared for what came next. The sugar withdrawal was intense. The cravings, the headaches, the constant thoughts about food. It felt like my body was screaming. Like every habit I have built over decades suddenly wanted to fight back. And for the first time, I began paying attention, not to the scale, not to the mirror, to my body. I started noticing how food made me feel, how energy changed, how my inflammation changed, how my mind felt, how my mood felt, how my body responded. Something shifted. I stopped viewing my body as the enemy and started viewing it as a partner. I know that might sound simple, but it changed everything. Because this body, I had spent years criticizing. This body, I had spent years apologizing for. I had spent years trying to hide. Had actually carried me through every season of my life. This body survived childhood. It survived heartbreaks. It survived 2 pregnancies. This body survived trauma. This body survived single motherhood. Working long hours, raising children, multiple jobs. This body got me through years when I didn't think I was strong enough to keep going. And yet somehow I had convinced myself it was the problem. What if your body is not your enemy? What if it never was? What if your body has been doing the best it could with the information, stress, habits, wounds, and circumstances it was given? What if instead of punishment, it needed partnership? What if instead of criticism, it needed compassion? What if instead of shame, it needed love? I want you to think about something. Imagine your body as a lifelong friend. A friend who has been with you since the day you were born. A friend who has carried you through every success, every failure, every celebration and loss, every lesson, every chapter. How would you speak to that friend? Would you criticize them the way you criticize yourself? Would you judge them the way you judge yourself? Would you withhold kindness from them the way you withhold kindness from yourself? Or would you thank them? Would you show compassion? Would you recognize everything they have carried? Maybe tonight is an opportunity to do exactly that. Because the truth is, health matters. Movement matters. Nutrition matters. Sleep matters. Taking care of your body matters. I will never tell you otherwise. I know firsthand how dramatically physical health can affect your quality of life. But there is a difference between caring for your body and attaching your worth to your body. And that distinction changed everything for me, and it should for you too. For years, I treated those things as if they were the same. If the scale went down, I felt better about myself. If the scale went up, I felt worse. If I lost weight, I felt worthy. If I gained weight, I felt ashamed. The scale had become a judge, a scoreboard, a measurement of my value. But that was never its job. The scale measures weight. It does not measure worth. It does not measure kindness. It does not measure integrity. It does not measure courage or compassion. It does not measure faith, and it does not measure your character. It measures weight. Nothing more, nothing less. And perhaps one of the greatest acts of healing is learning to separate those things. Your health matters. Your body matters. Your well-being matters. But your worth was never waiting for you at a goal weight. Your worth was never hiding in a clothing size. And your worth was never locked behind a number. Your worth has been with you the entire time. For years, I believed my life would begin when my body changed. Looking back, I can see how much life I postponed while waiting. I was waiting. And perhaps the greatest tragedy isn't carrying extra weight. Perhaps the greatest tragedy is carrying the belief that you must become someone else before you deserve to fully live. If there is one thing I hope you take away from tonight, it is this. You do not have to wait to participate in your own life. You do not have to wait to take the picture. You do not have to wait to go on your trips. Go pursue your dreams. And you do not have to wait to be seen. Care for your body. Honor your body. Strengthen your body. Nourish your body. Move it and rest it. But do not spend your life waiting for permission from a future version of yourself, because life is happening now, not 20 pounds from now, and not 50 pounds from now, not someday, now. And perhaps that is the lesson I spent decades learning. My body matters. So, until next time, take a deep breath. A nice, slow, long, deep breath. You are loved. You are safe. You are worthy. And I believe in you. Always.